Episode 15. Irena Sendler, who rescued 2,500 Jewish children from Holocaust. Hello, this is Christina Choi. Today's global citizen story is about a Polish woman who rescued 2,500 Jewish children during Nazi occupation of Poland. The story begins with a 7-year-old girl named Irena Sendler in a small town near Warsaw, Poland. Her father was a humanitarian doctor who volunteered to treat poor Jewish patients. Irena often accompanied her father when he visited the poorest district. She asked her father, "Why do you help them for free?" He answered, "When you see a drowning person, wouldn't you reach out your hands regardless of the person's age, gender, or creed?" This left a deep impression in her heart for the rest of her life. When Irena was 7 years old, her father died from typhus contracted from his patients. The Jewish community leaders, who knew well how selflessly her father used to help the poor Jews, offered to help her mother by paying Irena's education. Irena later graduated university and worked for the Department of Social Welfare and Public Health of the city of Warsaw. When the World War II broke out in 1939 and the Germans invaded Poland. Soon after that, Nazi Germany locked out the Polish Jews into Warsaw Ghetto. In the small designated area, nearly 500,000 Jewish people were forced to live in. The poor hygienic conditions in the crowded ghetto, the lack of food and medical supplies resulted in epidemics and high death rates. Irena managed to obtain a permit from the city that enabled her to enter the ghetto to inspect the sanitary conditions. Once inside the ghetto, she established contact with activists of the Jewish welfare organization called Zgoda. Irena was in charge of the children's division of Zgoda. She was the mastermind of rescuing children. She and her colleagues used many creative methods to smuggle children out of the ghetto to the safer blocks. For example, they carried out the children hiding in a sack, a toolbox, or a coffin. When she smuggled out infant babies, she was assisted by a truck driver who had a well-trained dog in his truck. In case the baby cried, as the truck was passing through the gates, he commanded his German shepherd, "Bark!" The guards also had large dogs, so the baby's cry could be covered by the loud noise of barking dogs on both sides. Isn't that clever? But this work was done at huge risk, since giving any kind of assistance to Jews was punishable by death, not just for the person who was providing the help, but also for their entire family. Where did the children go? The rescued Jewish children were placed by Sendler's network with Polish families, Roman Catholic convents, and other orphanages. A non-convent offered the best opportunity for a Jewish child to survive and be taken care of. Irena and her co-workers made a list of the hidden children's Jewish names, new Polish names, and addresses, etc. The aim was to return the children to their original families after the war. Then one day, in 1943, Irena got arrested by the Gestapo, the secret police of Nazi. Just a few seconds before they ransacked the house, Irena tossed the lists to her friend, who later put them in jars, hid them under an apple tree in her yard. Irena was placed in the notorious Powiat prison, where she was repeatedly interrogated and tortured. Her legs and toes fractured. Despite this, she refused to betray any of her comrades or the children they rescued. Since she refused to give any of the information, she was sentenced to death. At this moment, she said, she felt almost liberated because she no longer had to be under constant fear of being caught. She was to be shot. On her way to the execution, unexpectedly, the escorting guard sneaked her out. Unbeknown to her, Zegora had bribed a German officer to release her. During the remaining years of the war, she lived hidden, sometimes sleeping with baby foxes at the zoo. Nonetheless, she continued her underground activities to help the Jewish children. When the war was finally over, she dug up the jars and began the job of finding the children and trying to find their parents. Sadly, almost all the parents of the children Irena saved died at the Auschwitz or Treblinka concentration camps. After the war was over, Poland was under the communist regime, and her work was completely forgotten for the next 50 years. Then how did her story come back to light? Strangely, something happened in a rural school in Kansas. In 1999, 4 students, Megan, Liz, Sabrina, and Hesika, began looking for information about Irena Sendler as a National History Day project in their high school. Their teacher, Mr. Kennard, had given them a clipping he had found in a newspaper related to Spielberg's film, The Schindler's List. The mention of Irena was brief in a story called Other Schindlers. At the time, only one website on the internet mentioned Irena. They did not know whether she was still alive. After months of sending many letters to the Jewish Holocaust museums, they received a letter directly from Irena Sendler, who was living in Poland. When Irena first heard about the girls' school project in Kansas, she said, "I was stunned and very surprised." In one of the Irena's first letters to the girls, she wrote, "My dear girls, I can't find the words to thank you." The students made a play based on Irena's story, Life in a Jar, which began drawing attention from all over the world. When the girls and their teacher visited Poland, Irena said that in the past 50 years, she had been having nightmares thinking about the children she could have saved. She couldn't stop asking herself, "Have I done enough?" She also said, "I did not do the work by myself. I worked with my colleagues. What we did was not extraordinary. It was normal. Wouldn't you save a drowning person, regardless of the person's age, gender, or creed?" In 2008, she died peacefully at age 98. The seed of love and compassion her father planted in her heart when she was 7 years old grew to bear fruits of 2,500 lives she saved. And it still keeps growing in many hearts of youth around the world. Whoever saves one life saves the world. How would you like to reach out your hands to someone in need? If you are a parent, what kind of seed would you like to plant in the heart of your child? Today's Global Citizen story was about a Polish woman, Irena Sendler, who risked her life to rescue 2,500 Jewish children from Nazi Holocaust. Thank you. Global Citizen stories are not biographies that cover the entire life of a particular individual. The purpose is not to share every aspect of one's life, but to share certain inspirational aspects.